Brad, good to see you. Thank you for being here. I remember the Foundation for Economic Education when I was a kid. You look a lot younger than I am, so I'm glad the tradition continues. But my first job when I was young was a minimum wage job. I took it happily. I was living at home at the time, as a lot of the first job folks are, and it taught me about how to wake up every morning and go to work and deal with a boss, etc. What happens to teenage workers if, in fact, the minimum wage doubles very quickly?
Well, you're exactly right. Progressive Democrats who push for a $15 minimum wage often claim it's a living wage needed for full-time breadwinners who have families depending on them. And that's actually a very small percentage of people. Only about 1% of full-time workers earn the minimum wage, according to the Labor Department. In reality, it's a lot of teenagers and young people and part-timers who are hurt. And, you know, the consistent economic data and research show not just consistent job losses from minimum wage hikes, but that it is teenage employment and labor force participation that suffers the hardest.
Well, you know, let's take a broader look at what's happening here, because Bernie Sanders' agenda is more than just the $15 minimum wage. He put up on his website when he was running for president this corporate accountability project, which is very complete, which he announces his intention to essentially destroy capitalism as we know it in the United States. And the way to do that would be to replace the stockholders and management with workers and government as the people in control of businesses. So this is just part and parcel of a very large plan. And I'm wondering, how much do you think the Biden administration will absorb the plan of Bernie and other progressives to really overturn capitalism as we know it in America?
Well, you know, it looks like they've absorbed quite a bit of it with a $1.9 trillion stimulus package and blowing out the budget deficit and all these new regulations. And it's exactly right. A $15 minimum wage would destroy capitalism in the sense of denying young people the first rung on the ladder of economic opportunity. You know, my first job, you talked about yours, mine was at Subway making sandwiches. Yeah. And I wasn't very good at it. And I probably ate about 2 full free subs a shift. I did not produce $15 in value, and I never would have gotten hired, but that job helped me get my next job and helped me get started.
Yes.
And that is the kind of opportunity in capitalism that we would undermine with these kinds of policies.
By the way, my first, when I was 15, was collecting blueberries for a farmer up in Maine, and I ended up eating about half of my profits as well. But again, getting back to the notion that a lot of these progressives have, it also fits into their notion about health care and a lot of other stuff, the one size fits all. Whether it's an insurance policy or a minimum wage, whereas this country is built on differences. We all have tremendous differences, and that's what's wonderful about our republic, is that every state is different, and one size doesn't fit all in this country, does it?
No, it doesn't. In fact, a $15 federal minimum wage nationwide would be the equivalent for Puerto Rico of imposing a $68 minimum wage in Washington, D.C. So that's not a minimum wage increase. We can't have the same minimum wage in Los Angeles and New York City as in Alabama and Puerto Rico. The costs of living and the median wage are so different, and it would just, I think, really undercut the 50-state system of federalism that's gotten us to where we are today, and it would really create a lot of headaches. So one-size-fits-all federal policy is a recipe for disaster here.
Brad Polumbo from the Foundation for Economic Education. Good to see you, Brad. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.